friends, welcome to Slow Paced Journeys. We are here today at
Golden Spike National Historical Site.
This is our first vlog and we're so glad that you're with us.
Yeah, welcome to the journey.
Okay, so we decided to come out here today and just show you the Golden Spike area. We have been here before, but never really thought about the accessibility of it. Turns out it is extremely accessible. There's seating over there, and there's seating to my right. So if you get here and you feel like you can't walk the few steps that it actually was to get over to the train, really easy to sit in the shade. Today is a beautiful day. It's only about 75 degrees. Sometimes you would come and it would be 110. So you've got shade to be able to see everything that's going on. So this is the 150th anniversary of the Golden Spike. You had the two railroads that were laying track together, and they didn't lay tracks side by side. They just came to a point. And so this is why we have this historical place. It's really out of the way, but it's definitely something you should come and see.
While it's not that far to the presentation area from here, you don't have to go all the way to the presentation area. When they bring the trains down, the 119 in particular comes by on this track here, and they talk about what a siding is. It pulls down a ways and then it reverses and comes back. So you don't have to go all the way to the...
So we love trains because our daughter worked at Disney World and drove the trains for a couple of years. And so we were really interested in where they built these trains and how they built them. They actually did talk to Disney in the 60s to see if they could build them some trains, but they were working on Disneyland, Disney World trains, and so they gave them the name of this gentleman who was able to basically build these by scratch. They didn't find an old locomotive and restore it. These are totally built by scratch trains, which is different than Disney. A lot of people like to get this passport. It's an awesome way to track where you go to the different national parks. The thing I found with them is I always forget it. And so I have done this instead. So what I do is I always get a postcard at every park I go to. That way they all have postcards. It's really easy to get one. And then I have a book at home that I keep them all in. So then you stamp them. They always have a stamp for where you are at. Upside down, that's always good. That shows you're human. They also usually have a piece of paper here that you can then practice. That one's going to tell when we came. That one's where we were. That's actually for the 150th, so that's cool. This one is probably, oh, this just says when it was late. So that's when they celebrated.
Oh, probably.
Okay, go ahead. So we're on the East Auto Tour road, which you can see it's a gravel road. The West Auto Tour road was closed today. Wanted to make sure that it was clearly stated that you can't come out on these auto trails with an RV or a recreational vehicle, anything like that. You have to be in what they refer to as a passenger vehicle. But these tour trails take you past some of the sites that were developed to help get the railroads to come together and join at this particular place. Part of the advantage of this was we saw, I mean, they really are out in the middle of nowhere here, and would have been a horrible place to have to come and work during the summer. Incredibly hot, and like the tour said, there was no, or the presentation back at the trains, there's not a lot of water up here. So ultimately that was what made them choose to relocate the station from here to Ogden.
The big question was, they wondered if this was going to be the Chicago of the West, because the trains were coming together. They envisioned this whole huge area that was going to be built up around the trains, and literally thought that this was going to be the Chicago to the West. If you ever go to Ogden, it's definitely not Chicago, but it is interesting that they had high hopes for out in the middle of the desert to have something grand.
Now, as we mentioned before, since we're on this auto tour, you can see that the road is very, well, it's gravel. It's not a prepared road. And they have these turnouts so that you can walk up and explore some of these sites, but be aware that it's gravel and it's an irregular surface, and you may not be able to get closer to the interesting point, the point of interest, without taking some time and being careful. Yeah, it's uphill. It's not someplace that I think a mobility scooter would be able to reach. So I walked down the road a little ways because I wanted to take a kind of a panoramic view of looking down into this valley. There's just nothing else up here. We're at the visitor center of the Golden Spike National Historic Site, and they have lots of information about the trains and why they ended up meeting here. But it was really interesting because this is out in the middle of nowhere, and after they had met, they had planned that this would grow into a city and be a sizable station, but it was too far from any place, so they ended up moving to Ogden.
Water was a big deal.
Yeah, there was no water here, so they had to move someplace where the supplies were more readily available. But it was interesting because out on the track they have a replica of the Golden Spike, and you can pick it up, and we got a picture of me holding it, and I was surprised at how small it was. So they have a display that shows the different track sizes, and the track size at the time was way smaller, and so they needed much smaller spikes. So you look at the replicas and you think that they've got to be like toys or fake or something, but that was the size that they actually were. And if you look at the size of the spikes that are around the one out on the track that's out there, you'll see that they're significantly bigger, and it's because when they built the trains, they didn't build them to the same scale for the track. They're the proper size for the train, but they're built for a different track size based on the tracks that we have today.
When when we got here today, I had 1,100 steps already on my phone. I am tracking the steps on my shoes today. These are Alegria track shoes. I've just gotten them, worn them a couple times, really comfortable, but they have a chip in the shoe so that it will keep track of the step. So we're sort of playing around with different step tools and seeing what is going to work out best for you. So it looks like here at the Golden Spike, I've taken about 1,424 steps. That is not very many steps, and I would give this a 5 for extremely accessible to anyone who wanted to come. Even if you just came and just looked behind and sat in the shade, you would totally be able to see everything you needed to see here.
Is that a 5 out of 5?
5 out of 5, yes, except come, you will have a great time, and it's super easy to get around.
So I had 757 steps that I took today. Not very many. I walked around both trains, so we walked from the visitor center out to the trains, and I walked around both trains. But as you can see from the video, it's super easy to get around. The only place where you might have any difficulty is when you're off the walkway and they have a kind of a gravel and a packed dirt area on one side where the benches are, and then on the other side of the trains it's just I don't know what you would call it. It's not a prepared surface at all, so you wouldn't be able to take a mobility scooter over there at all. But you should have no trouble at all on the near side.
So here's the steps that I took on the Steps app, and $12.90. So that comes in pretty close to my shoes. That's one thing that we're really going to do a lot of research on, is see which is going to give us the best indication. We think the shoes are going to do it because, I mean, you're walking on the shoes. But we'll just keep trying and try the different kinds and see which way it works best. Obviously, Mark's so I am 5'5", Mark is 6'2", and so our steps are going to be way off. Him 2-to-1 is probably what I would have guessed.
Anyway, that's going to be it for this time. We wanted to thank you for coming with us on this journey.
Have a good day.